So there has been some research in this area, not as much as it should be. Not as much, you would expect that this is 2024, right? We should have made more advancement in this area because you'll be surprised what can be done through science. But as I mentioned before, a big challenge is those technologies, having access to those technologies to do those things. So, and unless we begin to have the right people in power that really care about pushing these things to just make sure that the people who are, you can train people to do anything, really. People can learn anything. Nigerians are very smart people.
The problem really is a mentality problem because the leadership we have in Nigeria is a reflection of the Nigerian society. If you bring Obama to lead Nigeria, it will be impossible to govern Nigeria. They will either shoot you the next day, which means that the people you are ruling, they don't want you to rule them in a certain way. All of us, Nigerians, are guilty of it in one way or the other.
Being able to do so many different things and somehow you manage because it's been your whole life. It's been your whole life. I was growing up. I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I had to go to school and write exams and do everything a child had to do. And then I still had to go and be part of a business and help to keep the books, help to bring the goods. So that has, over the years, has helped me to learn discipline. It's helped me to be able to take disappointments well. I just see life as it comes. That's why I tell you that when somebody asks me one thing I want you to know about me, I will say I want you to know that I'm happy. Amaka Ifeduba, and I'm from Nigeria. Very proud to be from Nigeria. So that's always like the starting point for me. And I'm now currently in the United States doing my PhD. I'm a PhD candidate in plant breeding. So prior to that, I had all my education from Nigeria, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and then after my education in Nigeria, I was a lecturer in the University of Jos. That's where I went to school. So I was a lecturer there for like 3 years before I felt like it was time to just pursue better opportunities, just to fuel my passion, basically, because there were a lot of issues. I could identify all the problems in Nigeria, but I did not have what it takes to solve the problem. And that was very frustrating for me. So that was kind of what made me begin to think about opportunities to probably leave Nigeria, and hopefully I'll be able to give back from a global stage, when I have the opportunities to give back. So I guess that's it about me in terms of who I am. It's just me.
That's you. Now, tell me something, Amaka. You close your eyes now, you are looking at yourself back, you are like about 10, 12, 15. In those years, what do you see around you?
I'm closing my eyes and I'm trying to see. Well, I guess I'm not sure what your question is, but I guess when I was younger, it's just hope. When I was a young child, I guess it still stayed with me, but I believed I could be anything. So growing up, I always was a very passionate and a happy person, and I'm still that way even up till today. So I grew up with the mentality that I could be whoever I wanted. So I went about life with that kind of attitude of hope and having a lot of dreams and just desire to better myself and also impact the people around me. So that's something that has been with me from a young age. I think my father used to tell me that I have an old soul. Basically, I just take responsibility of people. Everybody's problem somehow becomes my own. And I've been that way all my life. And I've come to just accept it as who I am. And I try to hone that skill of just, influencing others, being responsible for them, mentoring them, guiding them. I think that's something that's been with me even from childhood. It's just been me believing that you could be better. It's always my mantra in life that in whatever situation you find yourself, you can do your own part to make it better. So that's been it for me, from even from childhood, just having a lot of hope and a lot of dreams. And I've always been very happy, like very happy. I've always had excess happiness, excess energy, these two things. I always have, I always have extra energy and extra happiness. So I try to share that with people.
All right. We need you. We need you to spread that positivity around, that energy around, because we need it to be able to move forward where we are today. All right. I'm sitting there now where you are still a young girl in your city, in your state where you grew up. But I'm sort of interested now. What really is motivating you? What is giving you this energy? Because I don't know if that is how everybody is around you.
Well, I don't. What motivates me, what gives me energy. I don't know. I just feel like I've always had a lot of energy, even as a child. Probably that energy comes from I grew up being very close to my dad. So I'm a middle child. So middle child, I have like a elder brother, elder sister, younger brother, younger sister. So from childhood, there was always this, I don't have a partner, like they're paired up, they're paired up. So I was very close to my dad. And as a young child, even as early as 10, I started doing business with my dad. Like I became a part of his business. And by the time I was 15 years old, my father could travel and leave his spare parts business for me to take care of. So it wasn't not even a business that a woman should be in to begin with. But somehow I had all of that energy, and I was almost raised like a boy child in some sense. So I think my upbringing has a lot of impact to the person I have grown up to become, because I just grew up having my father believe so much in me. And so when somebody believes in you that way, there's a way it motivates you to always want to be better. So as a very young child, I remember coming back from primary school and then secondary school, and then I'll go to the shop, and I'm in the shop, and my father just trusted me. He had more faith in me than most 10, 11, 15 years old children. At that age, when children should be playing and worrying about dressing up, I was worrying about business and doing sales. So you see, it's a little bit, the upbringing is kind of different from what is typical. So I would say that has played a huge role, because being in a motorcycle spare parts business, you're Nigerian, so you know what that is. That's a very rough terrain, basically. So I had to learn to stand my ground. I have to learn to, like, you cannot chance me now. So we go to do offload, and we bring goods, and we carry things. And so that's how I grew up. So I think that has just kind of played a role in me having a lot of faith in myself. I've reached the point where I believe that I can learn anything. If I don't know it, no problem. Just give me time, except I don't want to do it. So I think that has really kind of shaped me into this person who just, like, if I like this thing and I want to do it, I can do it. That's the mindset for me, except I don't want to do it. Yeah.
Right. Now, today you are doing a lot of things. Of course, you are a lecturer. Okay, you are also advancing now. You are in the US. When you look back to those experiences of your infant experiences, which of course are inbuilt in you, they're still there with you. It's evident, no?
Right.
What can you say? How would you say those have impacted you today in you, an adult?
I think my upbringing has have has had a very huge impact into the person I am, because I grew up having to do so many things. I just learned, nowadays I see people coming to ask me, like, how do you multitask? And I say, I don't know how. Like, I've always done it. There's a way you do something your whole life that you don't even think about it, right? You don't even give it much thought. You're just used to being able to do so many different things, and somehow you manage, because it's been your whole life. It's been your whole life. I was growing up, I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I had to go to school and write exams and do everything a child had to do. And then I still had to go and be part of a business and help to keep the books, help to bring the goods. So that has, over the years, has helped me to learn discipline. It's helped me to be able to take disappointments well. I just see life as it comes. That's why I tell you that when somebody asks me one thing I want you to know about me, I will say I want you to know that I'm happy. That's one thing, because it's just you reach a point in life where you know that you cannot control everything, and then it's like, okay, what can I control? So I go about my life every day with the mindset of what is within my own power to control. Amaka, what can you change? And then I focus on that. You see that thing I can't change, I don't bother about it. It doesn't cost me my sleep, you know. I have a lot of sympathy for people who talk about depression and all of those things, and but it's something that I don't know how to relate with it, even when I've gone through substantial difficulties. You know, sometimes when people hear me talk like this, they feel like, oh, your life has been always easy. Oh, you've had it so smooth. I'm like, you don't know half of my story. You don't know what I've been through. The fact that you see me always having this positive energy, if I tell you some of the things I've gone through, you will feel sorry for me. So that's kind of that's just the idea. So I think that upbringing of just shaping you around life and having that reality that things will not always go in your favor. You know, so you have to do your bit. As much as possible, focus your energy on doing your own part, pray to God, have faith, do your own part, network with people, meet the right people, depend on other people, lead from your own strengths. So all of those techniques are things you just learn over time, that they just become a part of your life, that you just flow like that and you're operating, and people are wondering, how are you able to do what you're doing? It's like, well, I don't know how else. You know, this is how I am. I don't know. I cannot be any other way, literally. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that. I so love that. You know, sometimes it is said, particularly within the area of self-improvement, that you're not going to always complain of what have happened to you, that, oh, it is bad. Of course, it is bad what have happened, no? But
Right.
if that is all you can do, just complaining, you are not going to be able to move anywhere. What
Right.
have happened, but what do you learn from that? How do you move on?
Right.
I like that you are concentrating on what you can change. That is
Right.
very
That's
important,
it.
because there are a lot of things that we cannot change. If we concentrate on those ones, we will never go anywhere.
You will just be miserable. That's the thing. You will really just be miserable when you live life with the attitude of all the things that has gone wrong to you. You know, you want to do all the things, all the struggles you've been through, and that becomes the focus of your life. It will be hard to be able to come out of that depression. But I think if you are able to focus your energy, even focus that pain you are feeling towards making a difference, towards doing something, there's a way having a purpose keeps one going. At least that's what I believe, and that is what I tell a lot of my mentees. If you have a mindset that you are trying to achieve something, and you know that you can do something about it incrementally, little by little, small by small, you begin to see that difference. There's a way it keeps you positive, it keeps you happy while you are waiting, because there's a difference between waiting on something patiently and just waiting. It's two different things. You see, people are trying to achieve something. You know, you have a goal in mind, right? Okay, this is my 2025 goal. Maybe I'm trying to buy a house, I'm trying to get this car, I'm trying to get admission into this school, I'm trying to travel abroad. Whatever goal it is, we all have, all of us at every given time in our life, there's always that thing that we are chasing. But how you go from where you are to that point makes all the difference. The attitude that you display day by day. Are you waiting in grumbling, in unhappiness, in every day you are just beating yourself up? Or are you trying to enjoy the process that takes you from point A to point B? Are you trying to take all the lessons? Are you trying to really enjoy every bit of it? Just be able to document your journey, whatever it is. Celebrate your small wins. Don't always focus on that big achievement that you are trying to get to. What about today? What have I done today? What did I achieve today? Oh, wow, I'm so proud of myself. I did this today. And then you take the next step, you take the next step. And gradually you realize that that thing that was looking like such a huge mountain begins to look more like a hill, because you have just gradually gotten yourself to the point that you are achieving that. So I think it's just a mindset shift that it's like a Rema kind of thing, right? When you get it, if you just catch it, it's like, oh, life is nothing. I do my part, leave the rest for God, and you just keep going.
Thank you so much for that, Amaka. That is really very beautiful. It's very beautiful. It reminds me of the year 2022. Yeah. So in that year, I make a goal that for the course of the year, beginning from January to December, I was going to publish 500 articles. And of course,
Wow.
then I've gotten 3 blogs that I was writing that time, but now I've consolidated all of them into one blog that is much bigger now. We have over 1,500 articles on it, and it's still counting.
Wow.
But the point was, how am I going to write this 500 article? Of course, I wasn't going to write everything myself. I was going to pay people to write for me, because at that time, AI, we didn't even know of AI. So of course, I understand that you could work with people. So I just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But the point is that I wasn't really, my joy or my happiness wasn't when I would complete the 500 articles in a year. When I
Right.
write the first 5, I'm happy. I'm satisfied.
Right.
When I write the
Progress.
10th, I'm satisfied. So that
Right.
now what I learned from that goal in 2022 is that happiness is every day. It's a daily activity. It's a daily occurrence.
It's a
Success,
choice.
yeah.
I think it's a choice.
Yeah, actually. And success too is something that happens every day. The say is failure. It depends on how do we understand that, because like you said, it's about mindset. Because it rain on everybody. Somebody's going to cry that it rain. Another person is going to
Right.
rejoice that it rain. Some other person are
Right.
going to run out to the street and rejoice. Oh, it's raining, you know. Some other person are going to run inside. Oh, it's raining, it's raining, it's raining. It's the same rain, no? How do we see that thing that is happening to us?
Right.
Anyway, that is really beautiful. And I wish we were talking about personal development today. We could really have moved that rabbit hole. But anyway, let's leave that aside. So I ask you, I said, Amaka, tell me, what would you like to talk about? You made mention of agriculture. Okay, now, first, how did you get into agriculture? Because now we see you as an academia. Then we also see that as you were growing up, what was the state you grew up? I don't remember again.
I grew up in Jos,
In
Plateau
Jos.
State.
Okay.
Yes,
As you were growing
Plateau
up in
State.
Jos now, it's not like you were going to the farm. You were working with
No.
your father in the spare parts shop. But how did you
Right.
get into agriculture? And as a woman, for that matter, help me understand that.
Okay. Okay, I think one simple thing I always say to everybody, I always say agriculture chose me. That is something I always say, and because that's just the truth. Like all the while I grew up, if you read my recent article that I wrote about youth, how the youth can drive agricultural development in Africa, I think I made mention of that. I said growing up I didn't know anything about agriculture. Of course, I already described my upbringing to you, to tell you, for me it was growing up as a young child and going to do spare parts business, and that was basically my life from like age 10 to 20. So when I left high school, I finished high school, and of course, the next thing is to get into the university. That's the next dream of every child. Every child, basically, you finish high school and you want to get into the university. Then I started writing the entrance exam, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You're Nigerian, you know about JAMB. So and then the JAMB started jamming me, if I should say that. So I was passing the exam, really. It's not like I was not passing the exam. I started, incrementally increasing my score point from the very year I finished secondary school. And all the while I was not admitted. There was no connection. My father, I'm a first generation college student. My father is just small-time businessman, hardly any education, just primary school, not even high school education. So he had no connection. You know how big it is in Nigeria, where if you don't know the right people, then it's very unfortunate for you, if I should use that language. So I kept writing my JAMB exam, entrance exam, trying to get into the university. And for 5 years, I was not admitted. 5 whole years. In fact, I got admitted into the university on the fifth year after leaving high school. And I was doing well. I was excelling in the JAMB. All the lists will come out. My name was not there. Eventually, when I was admitted into plant science and technology. Just believe me when I tell you that when I printed that admission list, I did not know there was any course like plant science and technology in the university. I'd never heard about it before. I wanted to do pharmacy. That was my course of choice. That was what I wanted to do. So I was like, pharmacy. Like, okay, they both start from P. You know, you understand? Because I did not know. I was like plant science. Even when I took the admission letter home and I was talking to my dad about it, it's like, which one is plant science again? people made a lot of mockery. You trust now. People say, do you want to grow up and become a native doctor? What are you going to do with plant science? Are you going to become a farmer? And I was really confused at that stage in my life because, of course, I had waited 5 years. If you've waited 5 years, you are not about to waste. It's just as if a bird in hand, right, is worth 20 in the
In the
bush.
forest.
You've waited. You've already waited. If it was like your first year, if I probably got admitted into plant science my very first year, believe you me, I probably would have rejected that admission with the kind of mindset I had then, because it's about, okay, I'm going to still talk about that in that challenge whereby the youth do not see any value in agriculture because it's not taught to us. What you don't know don't concern you. Agriculture is made to look like it's a poor man's business, it's the business for the illiterate and things like that. So that's really the mindset most of the Nigerian children grow up with. And at that stage in my life, that was the mindset I had. So if I probably was admitted in my first year of trying, second year, I'm sure I would have kept trying. But because, of course, you've waited 5 years now, you've matured, and that, suffering, there's a way suffering matures you. When you've gone through things, it matures you to a point where it's like, I'm going to take this course and I'm going to give it my best. So that was the mindset at that point in time. It's like, 5 years is wasted. 5 years of my life is unaccounted for. I have to now go into the university and be serious. So basically, that was my entrance into plant science and technology for my first degree. So I got into the course and I started doing it. And of course, not liking it. I'm not going to pretend now that at the very beginning it was magic. No, because that's not what you wanted, right? But God being so kind to me, I always say this, and I don't take it for granted, that the very first semester I started my bachelor's degree, I just met somebody who, from out of nowhere, decided to mentor me. He's still my mentor till this day. It's almost 14 years ago, getting to 15 years from when I went into my bachelor's degree. So, but somehow we just clicked. He was a lecturer in the school who is in a different department. He's actually in chemistry. So most of the time, people hear me talk about my mentor. There's hardly a time and I think so much, he's had so much influence in me that is somehow he transferred that seed that makes me become passionate about mentoring others, because I could see how much influence somebody can have on another person. So I just met him from going to register a course. Basically, in 100 level, you take several courses, right? So you take in chemistry, go to the office, I want to register the course. And then we just started having conversations, just the way we are talking now, just questions back and forth, back and forth. And he just became interested, like, oh yeah, you are doing a good course. You can finish with first class. Believe me, there's never crossed my mind to say I'm going to the university to try and get first class. Before the university, I was not an excellent student. I can say that for free. I was just average, average, not like a top performing student. So finishing with first class was never something that I aspired to or anything, but somehow he sold that vision to me. And he painted the picture that the picture was so clear that I caught that vision and I was willing to run with it. So I became so vested, I became so serious, like, oh yeah, Mr. Patrick said I can finish with first class, so I'm going to finish with first class. So if you even read my post today, funny enough, that was what I posted about on LinkedIn today. I was posting about how much influence somebody can have on another person and how someone can literally change your life just by the power of words and by how much they believe in you and how they follow through. So he guided me step by step throughout the university. He was always on top of the matter. Like, what did you get in this course? If I say I scored 80 over 100, maybe I'm celebrating because I got an A, right? In Nigeria, A is 70. You're like, what happened to the remaining 20? Why did you not target? Why didn't you try to get 95? So, that kind of mindset of excellence that someone begins to transfer to you, that you now begin to feel like, no, I cannot do things halfway. If I can get 95, I will not get 90. If my best is 98, I will not get 97. So that it just changes your life throughout. So just by having his guidance and follow up, even being on a different program himself, but just following up with me, I not only finished with first class, but I finished as overall best out of over 20,000 students. That's something that I know I could not have done by myself. Like, I can own it and know that there is no way that crossed my mind. But just having that follow up, somebody was checking, somebody was caring, somebody was vested. It became, sometimes I was going the extra mile because I wanted to impress him. not because of anything. It's like, oh, wow, I want to really impress him. I want to go and show him that I scored 95 and just well done. Oh, wow, I'm proud of you. Those were enough. Just those power of follow up. So that was literally how I got into agriculture. And by the time I graduated, I finished as best. And my whole goal was to become a university professor. Truly, that's because I became so interested about developing the next generation. No, I believe so much in the human capital development. I believe that all the difference is if we have the right people doing the right things, then all the problem is solved. It's not about the other resources, especially in Nigeria, where we have every other resource. The only problem we have in Nigeria is the problem of people. I'm sure you know that.
The human
Having the wrong
resources.
people, the human resources, that's really the power. So I became so interested in that. And of course, I tried to get into the university to become a lecturer. I graduated best. So you would think that that should be automatic, right? You would think that a student who finished best out of 20,000, that they will be the one begging you to come and take job. But no, it did not happen like that. My dear country, Nigeria. It took additional 1 year of a lot of lobbying and back and forth and people sending letter to the VC. I don't even want to get into any of that. But eventually, I was given the job after 1 year of trying. But at that time, I was already becoming really frustrated because I felt like my passion and my talent could not come to true full expression. I was there in that job for like 3 years, and I was not just getting the satisfaction that I needed because I was in an environment where I felt like it's just as if I needed to always make myself feel small just so that you don't step on someone's ego. I don't know how to explain that to me, and if you get it. So it was at that point in my life that I just felt like, okay, maybe I need to improve. I need to like take the next step forward. And another thing that was kind of pushing me, because I became so passionate about agriculture, the more I understood the problems. Now I'm in it. Now I had done a bachelor's degree. I was completing a master's degree. I could see all the problem. Like I could I could give you the bucket list of problems that the farmers were facing, the growers were facing. But how am I going to solve the problem? I did not know how to solve it. I just had all the list of the problems. So that was really how I just felt like, okay, maybe the next thing would be to try to get a higher degree, try to help from a global stage. Maybe you'll be able to make a difference from that point. So I don't want to go too deep, but
But
that's
anyway,
I guess.
I have something to ask you there because that can
Mm,
be very important for us as we approach education because education is a vital part of our society, how it goes. Yeah, that is something
mhm,
that sort of float in there as we were talking, that you
mhm.
could list all the problem. Now,
Right.
because we are looking at education, is it possible that we are taught to understand the problem or maybe to study the problem without studying the solution? And so that we are very good in understanding the problem or talking about the problem, but there are very little proposition about the solution. It's just a kind of a curiosity that comes to my mind.
Yeah, Obehi, I think what I think is the issue with that, at least from my own personal experience, I do not claim to have enough knowledge to speak for everybody, right? So I can only tell you from my own perspective. I think the problem is not that we are not taught to be able to analyze the solution. It's just that the resources are so limited. The resources, because you solve problem with resources, right? The fact that, in fact, for the time when I was trying to understand all of those challenges of agriculture, I could literally even tell you how those problems can be solved. But the problem is in implementation. I had no power, I had no opportunity, there were no resources to bring about that implementation. So I think that is where the challenge is. So it's not that we don't understand the solution, but the problem is if I understand how to solve a problem, but that solution is far removed, that is so far from me, it's just as good as I'm still with the problem. I still don't know how to solve it because the resources to solve it are far within my reach. The people who should be listening to you have decided to be deaf. They don't care about it. So you get to a point where you are so frustrated that you are wondering, like, why don't you care about this? Why should I be the only one talking about this? Or why should it be just few people? Why should it be just few people who are just like hammering or emphasizing a matter? This is our collective problem. Why are we not seeing it as our collective problem? So I would say that's really where the challenge is. That challenge is the resources and the power to implement.
Hmm. Anyway, I do have a couple of questions to ask there, but anyway, I wouldn't drag that line because that would take us to another rabbit hole again. He would need because I really have do a lot of interview there with also educational expert because I think I really do have a hard line there. But anyway, we'll leave that for another day. Now, you describe what you do in okay, you meet somebody today, you are telling the person what you do within the field of agriculture. What would you say?
Okay. So it's kind of double-pronged, right? So I'm currently a PhD student, and my research basically is on potatoes. So that's so think about it. Everybody loves potatoes.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah. So my research is trying to develop potato varieties that can adapt to high temperature stress areas, because potatoes don't do well under heat stress conditions. When you grow potatoes under conditions where the temperatures are high, you get a significantly lower yield and tuber defects. So you have tubers with a lot of defects, whether external or internal. So, but for my research, we're trying to understand there are some varieties that do better than other varieties under high temperature stress. So what makes it different? Why are these varieties tolerant and these ones are sensitive? With that understanding, it will guide the efforts, like the breeding efforts, to develop more, because you already know that global temperatures are becoming more extremes. So it's on us as plant breeders, as people in agriculture, to try to come up with innovative ways to develop crop varieties for the future. You have to be able to develop crops that are resilient, that can adapt to harsh conditions, because the conditions will not always be right. And there are places like, I'm in Texas, right? It's very warm in Texas. There are places that would literally be very warm. So people in that area, growers in that area, they have to be able to have varieties that they can plants that do well, not that when they plant it, they're having losses and a lot of yield losses and all of those things. So that is what I do for my PhD, and that is what I'm doing my dissertation on. But on the other side too, for my passion, I've always been passionate about advocating for agricultural development. So this is something that that I do on my own that is not related to what I'm doing for my education. So what do I do in that space? I try to lend my voice, write as much as I can, come up with research, come up with analogies. How can we solve the problem? And my focus mainly is agricultural development in Africa. Mainly, that is where, because I feel we are too far behind compared to where global agriculture has reached. The average farmer in Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Ghana, most of the time, what they have to suffer, the people in advanced country don't go through all of that. So I advocate. It is something that I'm really passionate about. Nobody pays me for it, but I enjoy doing it anyway. I try to lend my voice, just as we're doing now, just try to write articles about it. I've written quite a number of articles around topics like that, and on just like, okay, these are the problems. How do we begin to solve it one after the other? How do we really practically address those issues? So that's what I do in agriculture, being a scientist and then being an advocate and being a science communicator. Like that.
Thank you so much for that. You are in the feed. You are just in the middle of the entire conversation. Last month, last month. No, actually, the beginning of this month, we had a webinar on agriculture or agribusiness in Africa, and it was really very fantastic because there was this guy from Uganda who is telling us how they managed to. In fact, there is something that we often say in agriculture because now in agriculture you will often hear the problem of why people are not able to access loan, for example, because you need resources, like you said, to be able to finance the project. Most of the challenges are that, okay, the farmer, the local farmer do not have enough data. They are not organized. They don't know how to access loan. If you go to the bank will not give you money because you are not bankable. So they are really doing something very interesting. Although I'm yet to go in detail to research what they have done, but based on what you have said, they are basically organizing the people together so that they can become a group, a kind of association, farmer association in the village. And as a group now, they are able to approach a bank and they will give them the loan, which is something that I really find very interesting in Uganda. But I think it can be applied also in other parts of Africa. And you see, that is a mindset that I'm having. I don't know if I'm overpumping it. That where you have problem is where you have opportunity. If you don't have a problem, you don't have opportunity. So that for entrepreneur, you should be looking for where there is problem, because you are supposed to solve problem.
Right.
When you solve problem, then you make money. Now, you are researching about potatoes. What problem do you want to solve in Nigeria, for example, in Africa with potatoes?
In Nigeria, potato is a very big crop too. If you know, it's especially in Jos where I grew up. The big challenge with Nigeria is that agriculture is so far behind that you see specific crops growing in just one area or two, maybe out of the whole 36 states. All the tomatoes, for example, in Nigeria comes from Jos, majority, a good portion, because that is where it does well. All the potatoes, a good percentage, maybe 80 to 90% of the entire potato of the whole country comes from one state, because Jos is the cool state, right? That's the cold weather state where potatoes can thrive. So what I can do, or something that is in my mind, is how do we begin to start talking about the negotiations of getting seeds, quality seeds, because most of the time the problem is even in the quality of the genetic material that is being planted. How do we begin to talk about these negotiations and jump through all of these regulatory hurdles that get across to the growers in Nigeria? Not just, first and foremost, the technology they need. The technology is very important. If you have the right technology, a lot of times you see people grow crops in rainy season when it's rain fed and it's enough they don't need to think about like a sprinkler irrigation system or any of those things. And in the dry season, nothing. In the dry season, the land is lying fallow. So having the right technology, an entrepreneurial, it's a business kind of. It's something that has to do with some type of partnership, making sure they have the right technology. Second thing is making sure they even have the right genetic material. Not long ago, I wrote a grant with some folks back home. We're trying to see if we can get money for aeroponic system. So the aeroponic system is where you grow the plants in soilless media just to accelerate the process of getting seed. So these are some of the areas that we can begin to come in, not just from the educational standpoint, but from practical places where you can literally solve the problem. And just as you said, in solving the problem, it's opportunity both for you and the people you are solving the problem for. So you are not just there solving the problem, you also gain something from it, both financially and just being happy that you were part of the nation building of your own country and of the continent where you come from. So these are some of the things, some of the areas I look at when I do my project is like, okay, how do we begin to make sure they have the right technology, just as I talked about the aeroponic system, and then how do they even get the right materials to plant, the seeds that have the quality seeds that they use. Because most times you see the farmers, they repeat seeds, they use it over and over again, and these seeds already have a lot of diseases and they just need to refresh, but they don't have the opportunity because, of course, you cannot just carry seed from one country to another country. That's a different discussion. And there's a lot of hurdles for you to jump if you wanted to do that. I cannot even travel with seed in my bag. Let me say I'm going to visit Nigeria. I cannot take seeds from the United States. That would be like going against the law. You can't do that. There are so many things that go into that process. But of course, it's doable. It's something that you need to find the right partnership, find the right people, make sure that you're doing the right, you're going about it the right way. You're checking all the boxes of the regulatory, all the technologies and all the things that is needed for you to get that thing done in order to solve that specific problem that you are trying to solve.
All right. I want to remain there for some seconds because now you are a scientist. You are well versed in this area. Now, when we say, for example, that certain food are grown in certain part of Nigeria, which is, of course, that is the truth, because the weather condition in Nigeria is not the same. In the north, you have a particular weather. In the south, you have it is completely two type of weather, which favor different type of crop that you can grow in different part of the country. Which, if there is a good agricultural policy in the country, it could even be very good, because it means that, of course, we are actually importing and exporting between the north and south of the country. But what I'm really sort of interested in is, what if maybe, for example, some farmer in the southern part of the country want to grow a particular crop? Is there a possibility, scientifically talking, to sort of modify the plant, for example, so that that plant can grow there? Okay, let me explain what I mean by that. The sweet orange that we eat today is not a natural orange. This is a result of research, a crossbreeding, so that they take out the element that they needed to create the orange. So that orange is not natural. The real orange, you would not like to eat it. Okay, now, that is to solve a problem, because the problem,
Right.
people needed something that they would like to. Who doesn't like orange? But let's say, for example, now we want to crossbreed crops in Nigeria so that it can be favorable to feed the Nigerian population, for example. Okay, I know I'm already like stepping some stone here, because now we'll be talking about the organically
GMO.
modified crop and all
Yeah.
of that.
GMO.
But anyway, for the study's sake, what chances are there that we could even create our own type of genetically modified crop to sustain the population? For example, just for the argument.
Yeah, actually, that's already been done for a few crops. There's been a few crops that has been genetically modified, or just sometimes it's not just about gene editing, right? It's not about genetic modification. There's also like traditional breeding, where, as you talked about, crossbreeding, and over time you can get crops to a particular stage. People have been changing crop genetics from the time man stopped being a gatherer and a hunter to become like conscious of growing crops. We have been manipulating the genetics of crop one way or another. People have who've worked on crops. You come up with things like seedless watermelons, apple. If you see the way apple used to be, it looks nothing like the apple you can buy today and enjoy. So even in Africa, there's been some projects. I think I know of one, like the Golden Rice Project, where like you grow rice to have more of carotene. That way, it has more vitamin A, because of the issues with lack of vitamin A causing blindness and things like that. So there has been some research in this area, not as much as it should be, not as much. You would expect that this is 2024, right? We should have made more advancement in this area, because you'll be surprised what can be done through science. But as I mentioned before, a big challenge is those technologies, having access to those technologies to do those things. So, and unless we begin to have the right people in power that really care about pushing these things to just make sure that the people who are, you can train people to do anything, really. People can learn anything. Nigerians are very smart people. That is why they leave Nigeria and they go and they do exploits wherever. So if we had that resources back home, we'll still be able to do it. So there's been projects. So there's been certain projects in trying to just get crops to do better, to even be better adapted to particular environment, so to say. And just as I talked about, I said, for me, I'm talking about potatoes. Normally, the normal potato, natural potato, will not do well under high temperature stress. But with breeding efforts and over time, we come up with varieties that can actually thrive, that even when the weather is warm and you plant it, you will still get significant and good yield significantly. So that is really the thing. So for the Golden Rice Project, which I think is an African project, the focus was to get the rice to have more vitamin A, more than the normal rice. And I think there's been a couple of other projects like that is specifically just focused on probably enhancing the nutrient profile of a crop, making it more nutritious. That could be the goal. Another goal could be making it more adaptable, so that that crop will be able to thrive better in, maybe that crop will not have done well in that environment, but because it has been bred specifically for that trait, then it begins to like do well in that environment. So these things are being done, but not as much as you would expect, not as much as you would hope that it should be done, given
Hmm.
how much our population is.
Yeah. How much our population is? We are over 200 million people, and we are a
So over
significant.
220, over
Okay,
to, yeah,
we are about
220.
220 million people. We are a
Right.
significant force in the world. So that
Right.
any person that is coming to lead certain institutions in Nigeria should be prepared for the future, because the country is prepared to lead, but we don't have leader that will lead. So everybody
Yeah,
is a baby in the country,
that's the
unfortunately.
challenge.
Because
Yeah,
if
that's
you
really.
if you if you put a sheep to lead the lion, all of them will behave like the sheep. Whereas if you
True.
bring a lion to lead the sheep, they will all
Yeah,
behave like the lion, because
I agree with you. I
it's
agree with you.
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a big challenge, and that's why part of the things I always talk about, or I try to promote, is I begin to talk about how we can harness the youth demographic. Nigeria is, for example, speaking specifically now about Nigeria, is over 220 million people, and up to 70% is under the age of 30. Is that not crazy? Like,
Significant
imagine
in
the
the world.
number of young people in that country that I don't want to use the word wasting away, but it's almost the case. It's so sad because people are there, people are smart, people can learn, people can make a difference, but the environment is just stifling. There is no environment that nurtures you, that helps you to become. Like there is so much that people can do, right? You have all of that potentials bottled inside of you. But when you have an environment that is not enabling, people would literally go to their grave with that potential, which is just very, very sad. It's very sad that we are not trying to use this youth demographic to drive innovation, and not just in the agri space now, just drive general innovation. Get the youth even get involved in leadership. But people need to be trained, right? If like they said, if the father who is supposed to train you is already having a problem. So if the foundation is faulty, when the people who are supposed to nurture the younger generations most times are not interested in doing that. They are not interested. They are just interested in their own pocket and all of those things. And
Amaka,
it's just
let's look at another area where you are where you are a significant player, which is in the mentorship. And let's look at what I said before again, that where you have a problem is where you should be happy to go as an entrepreneur.
True.
What if maybe we change this problem of mentality? Because I think the problem really is a mentality problem, because
I agree.
the leadership we have in Nigeria is a reflection of the Nigerian society. If you bring Obama to lead Nigeria, it will be impossible to govern Nigeria. They will either shoot you the next day, which means that the people you are ruling, they don't want you to rule them in a certain way. All of us, Nigerians, are guilty of it in one way or the other. But all of us can also change if we have a different mentality. What if maybe, for example, many people can be interested in developing the people instead of let's forget the government. Let's develop the people. Can't they even make a lot of money from that? Like I'm not saying building churches. I'm not interested in the churches or the mosque. But building institutions to build the people, entrepreneurship, skill, because we need to be able to compete in this world. We can't compete by going to organized churches.
True.
We need to be able to enter with technology. Speak to me about that. Yeah. What do you think?
You are just on point. You just hit the point that, something I said after the last presidential election, I said Nigerians deserve the president they got. That's my opinion. I don't want to go into that. I'm not a political person, but I said Nigerians deserve the president they got. Full stop. I'm going to leave that there. It's very, what you said is just really true, that the leaders are a reflection of the people. The leaders don't get into power by themselves, right? No matter how you want to rig the election, there is still a huge percentage of people that are getting them there. So what I do, which is something that I always tell myself, is that if I can change one person, if I can make a difference in the life of one person, then that's fine. That's okay. So I am not. I know that I cannot. I probably will not change the whole world, but within my own small space, my own small time, my own small energy, what can I do to impact? And that was how my mentoring academy was born, really. It was born out of that mindset of, remember I told you that my whole goal in life at one point was to become a university professor. And the reason I had that goal was because I felt like that would give me access to young minds. Because I felt like that is the beginning, that if you develop people to have the right mindset, it's like a ripple effect, right? It's a ripple effect thing. One person mentored me to be the kind of person I am today, that see things the way I see things. Maybe I'll be able to mentor 10 others who will mentor 10 others. And it's just that ripple effect. So when I came to graduate school, of course, I had a lot of time issues adjusting and all of that. But as soon as I adjusted, I started figuring out, my dream started coming back to me. There is a way, once you've gone through the whole stress of life and you are now settled, it will start coming back to you gradually. Like, okay, this is what I always wanted. This is the vision I always had. How do I do this then? How do I implement it? There's no time. Time is an issue. Time is, if you know about the life of a PhD student, then you know that time is everything. There's no way for me to really literally gather people to me physically. How many people will I be able to impact if I wanted to do this physically? And then that was when I started posting on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn now for like 4 months, thereabout. I started posting this year. At the beginning, I just posted about myself, literally. Most times, maybe if I got an award, then I'll post it on LinkedIn. If I went to conference, that was just it. It was just me, me, me. But eventually, it started, like that dream. You just wake up and it keeps coming to you. It's like all of these posts I'm making. What is the value to the young person that is looking at me and aspiring to be like me? And when I talk about young now, I don't even refer as, I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about just people having hope and desire. So somebody that is even 40 years old, 50 years old, you still have that goals and that desire that you want to probably achieve this, and every day you just come and flash, I got this award, oh, I went to this conference. How does it really benefit that person? Maybe it benefits me, right? It benefits me because hopefully the people who would employ me in the future, if I wanted to look for a job, will see that, oh, okay, she's doing something. But how does it really benefit that audience? And so that was, I had people come into my inbox. Most times they'll come and ask me about scholarship. How do I apply for scholarship? And I will answer. I will take my time and answer. 2 people will come, I would answer. 5 people will come. Eventually, it's like, this is not sustainable. It's not is there a way for me to put these people together? That way, it's even a better use of my time. If I have right now in my mentoring academy, I have 220 people from 8 different countries. And so it's possible if I bring them together and I dedicate 1 hour of my time. This is now me impacting over 200 people at the same time, rather than what I'll be able to do with one person. And in so doing, I just started even changing the trajectory of my post. It becomes about kind of trying to leave impact, trying to tell you something, for each post I make, there is a message. I'm trying to tell you something. It's that I'm challenging you to do your best. I'm trying to tell you something. So it just changes your mind that you believe that, you can be an influencer. But what are you influencing? Basically, that's what I posted about today. So if you've not read my post, you go and read it later. that's what I posted about it. So I was talking about, I said, people can change people. People have a lot of impact in people. And that is why your mother, when you are growing up, your mother always warned you to stay away from bad friends, because she's wise and she understands that people can either influence you for good or for bad. People can literally have that much impact on another person. It's about if you had the heart to do it. If you have that deepness in you where you want to pour into another person, you just feel like, yes, I've received so much and I have the willingness to just guide somebody. It's not enough to just throw information at people and say, okay, this is all the book you need to be successful. Read it and succeed. I don't think it works that way. I think people need to be coached and mentored and nurtured. Just having somebody to look up to makes all the difference. It made all the difference in my life. I know as a young person in the university, there were times the extra push I was making was not for me. It was to impress someone who I looked up to. And in so doing, that changed my life, right? It's a win-win situation that you have that person that you look up to that you don't want to disappoint. So that is what I try to be for people as much as my time permits. So I was able to set up my mentoring academy that is mainly centered around graduate students who are in countries and are trying to come into the United States for graduate school. Generally, young people who are aspiring for a better future. So I just provide them with resources. I do a lot of webinars or audio events around that. I try to invite other people in that space. I've had one with Rokiba and I had one with Isaac, and I still have a couple, coming up. And we just bring them together and we just share. We just share our stories. We share our experiences. We answer their questions. We just let them know it's okay. Sometimes you just I've had a lot of people when they come to my inbox, they just say, thank you. Thank you for inspiring me. Don't stop doing what you are doing. When I wake up every day, I just want to come and read your post. It gives me the strength to keep going. And that's the whole point, right? You're just hoping that people will get to that point where their mind is to the point where it's like, okay, I can do anything I want. I just have to be willing to put in the work. That's the whole point of mentoring, that you just get people to that point where they just know that anything is achievable to me. I just have to be willing. I just have to have that staying power to know that if it doesn't happen in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, it will happen as long as I don't give up on it. So that's what my program is about, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been learning, it's been a learning curve for me. People think I'm mentoring them. They don't know that I'm learning more from the process of just being able to lead a vast number of people, different personalities, different countries, just being able to nurture as much as you can. Right now I just did something. I said, okay, most of you don't even post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very good platform. A lot of things that I have achieved has come from just being on LinkedIn. And I share that most times. The reason why I share it is not as a brag, but it's an encouragement to say that you have to also do your own part. It's on LinkedIn that a mayor of a city in the US here reached out to me and interviewed me, and we were in a podcast like this, like a city mayor. Where else would she have seen me? Right? If I was there in my own one corner doing my PhD in my room, I would have probably gone through this life without having that connection with her. But now she asked for my number. We spoke on phone for more than 1 hour. She refers me as her friend. It's a relationship. Do you understand? So it is you give something, you have to have that willingness to give of yourself, and then it comes back to you. So I was like, okay, let's do a 21 days challenge. Who is joining me? So all of you, I want you to set up your profile, say what you are aspiring for something, right? You want to come to graduate school. Talk about it. Talk about your field. Talk about the things that you've learned. Just build yourself. Learn storytelling, learn writing, build your confidence. It doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a day. Some of us that probably now you just wake up from sleep. You just woke me up from sleep and we've been talking now for how long? You wake up from sleep and we start talking. It was not always like that, right? It takes some practice. It takes some time, that over time that you are now able to share from what you have within you. You are not trying to read a book to go and answer a question. It takes stamina. You build, it's a muscle. Whatever it is, you are building that muscle. It's like going to go and exercise. So that is what I try to transfer to these people who have somehow chosen me to mentor them. And I believe that, hopefully they gain from it while I gain from it, and we just keep going in that direction.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. I think also that the world that we live in today, at least the way that it's turning out, work like yours is going to become more important as we move on, because we can see that the post-industrial educational system, the way it is set up, is not serving us that much. Of course, there are still a lot of people that are going to remain in that program, but now it has come to the point that we need to even learn how to learn and also how to unlearn, so that we can relearn what we want to learn. That means now that we're going to look for the right information. We're not going to need all the information, because if all the information you are going to be getting, your head is going to explode. That is the reason why our brain conserve information and only present you what you need. I mean, the subconscious. Because since the day that you were born till the day that you are at this moment, how old you are, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, if you were to recount everything that have happened to you in a book, nobody can raise that book up. But the way the natural phenomenon is set up is such that you only remember the essential, the important thing. That is what you
that
need.
guides you.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't just open your brain to say, hey, come. People just go to Facebook and begin to scroll. Hey, where are you going? What are you doing with your life? You see, every piece of information you receive is going to condition you.
True.
It means now you are just like opening your house for all the armed robbers in the world. Hey, come. I just want to see people. Hey, all the drink, all the drug, all the harlot, all the stupid people, all the 419. Hey, come. You don't do that. You need to set a gate. I am going to New York. I'm moving from New York to Washington. That is the destination. If you see a train that is going to California, you have no business entering that train, because you are going to miss.
Right, you're absolutely correct. I like the analogy that you use. You are so right, and I agree with you totally. And I think it is that direction that lacks so much. It's that you see people are chasing so many things. I see that even with people who have even come to graduate school, and I see that with people who are trying to come, and I see that with people who are not even like in school spaces. People want to just jump on the next hot thing. What's the next, like, oh, what's the new trending thing? And there's really no direction. Like, what am I trying to achieve? It's always that question. So all the people, or most of the time, this is where I start from. Whenever people are around me, and I'll say it's the mindset. It's only in your mind. You need to have a clear picture, have a clear vision. don't be all over the place. If you are, just as you said, you're going from New York to somewhere, and then you see a plane going to a flight or a train going somewhere else, and because it looks attractive, maybe it looks more attractive, you want to jump on it. So people want to jump on everything, just that fear of missing out. They just want to feel like they're doing the trendy thing, and life does not really work that way. If you live that kind of life of hustle, that's what I call it. Where you live that life of hustle, you are always hustling. You are hustling this, you are in this, you are in this, you are in that. It's hard to have purpose. It's hard to be able to serve purpose. So you can do so many different things with purpose. Do you understand? If you have, like for me, I tell people, I say I'm a woman of many passions. If I do one thing, I'll be bored. I'll be very bored. The kind of energy I have, I cannot do one thing. I have to be able to do several things, but I can streamline it that it is clear to me. So I know how to apportion my time. I know how to manage my time. I know how to multitask. Because it's clear to me that, okay, I'm doing 3-4 things. This is what I'm doing. But it doesn't mean that when the new thing that sounds very flashy comes on board, then I just suddenly want to jump on it. I have to ask myself, does it align with my purpose? Does it align with my goals, my dreams? So these are some of the things that is truly lacking, as you said, that you don't learn in school. Nobody teaches you this thing in school. That's just the truth. And it's especially maybe our Nigerian schools. And I don't know even anywhere in the world.
No.
If there are
Anywhere,
schools,
everywhere, people are disoriented
yeah,
all across.
yes, if there are schools that really teach you about finding your goals, what do you even like to do as a person? What comes to you naturally? Because a lot of times, people operate from their weakness rather than operating from their strength. And it's a big challenge. People go to things they are not good at, and they will struggle all their life, and they will never get to average because this is not the natural talent that God has deposited in them. That thing that was that area where they could have easily shined, they will just leave it pending. They will not spare any amount of time trying to develop it. So you lead your life from your strength. You have to be able to find, all of us, we have our unique gifting and our unique strengths. But if you are not the kind of person that is conscious enough to calm down, to even know yourself, that's the first thing I always tell people. I say it's not about trying to lead anybody. If you've not led yourself, you cannot lead anybody. What ticks me? What keeps me awake? What can you wake me up from sleep? And I'm passionate about, and I'm talking about, and I'm happy to do. And even if nobody is paying me, I'm doing it with all happiness, and it gives me that fulfillment. I believe every human being needs to do that kind of soul searching. Every human being, and these are the things you would hope that they begin to teach people from a young age. So people who don't have like a guidance or parents or mentors that make them do that kind of thinking, they just go through that life of struggle and hustle and let's do everything. But have you asked yourself what really makes
For
you
what?
happy?
You know
Why
what?
do you know what you are doing?
You know what, Amaka? There is an aspect of it that is very important as we are talking about education. I remember I was talking to a professor. Okay, this is a guy I've interviewed a number of occasions. We still have a lot of interview to do because actually he is my friend. We are collaborating in different area. He's in London. So we're talking about Ifa theology. Okay, I know when it comes to African spirituality, many people go shivery. If you get shivery, let me know so that I will not talk about it.
Oh no,
Okay.
I'm a very open-minded person.
All right.
I'm very open-minded. I don't have to agree. I don't have to believe, but I want to hear it.
Beautiful. So we're talking of Ifa theology. Now, he told me that when a child is born, okay, Ifa, that is from Yoruba extraction. You must know that. That
I do.
At the 8th day of the child, I shared this one yesterday also when I was talking on LinkedIn. I see people were talking about child education. I said, this is very beautiful. So I shared this there. That at the 8th day, the elders will gather together because they are proceeding to the naming of the child. But before they give name to the child, they first of all try to understand what is the mission of this child in this community. Now, why this is important? Okay, now, just to add to that, then I interviewed another person in another day from another country. This one is from Senegal. He told me almost about the same thing, only that there is a difference of one day. That in Senegal, in their culture, when a child is born, of course, talking of the traditional African setting, not maybe where you are in Dakar or in Lagos, that at the 7th day, the elders will gather to find out what is the mission of this individual in the community. Now, you see, the word mission is repeating itself now a number of occasions. Either
Mm-hmm.
these ancestors of ours in the time past knew that the best way that you can make a better contribution to the society is if you know your purpose.
Right.
Now, there is something even very interesting about that. Your
Mm-hmm.
purpose is not for you. Your purpose is to serve.
Right.
Your
True.
purpose is like the eyes, like the mouth. I often say here in Obehi Podcast, that
Mm-hmm.
if talking was for me, I wouldn't talk. Why do I need to talk of something already
Right.
inside me? I am talking because I want somebody to hear me.
That's the truth, right? I already know what I know. So if I'm talking, it's just for somebody else to,
Yeah.
just to make that impact. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we are here in this world to serve. Muhammad
True. I
Ali,
agree.
in his famous quote, said that our service to other is the rent we pay here on earth. So the question we should be asking ourselves, therefore, is what is my service? What am I doing for other people?
True.
If you are doing something that other people are going to benefit, you will feel a lot of joy.
Mm.
This one, nobody will tell you. You will just feel it inside of you because you are a human being.
True. I agree. I agree with you totally on that point. That is absolutely correct. Like our purpose, until you find your mission or your area of service. If as a human being you don't find that point where it's like this is the gap I feel, this is the problem I can solve. I think it's hard to live a fulfilled life, going through life that way. And a lot of people do life like that. They just do life on the terms of I work, I make money, I go to work, I make money, I pay my bills, and that's it. I think there's a lot of emptiness in that kind of life. That's
Absolutely.
what I think. It's just an empty life when you are living life for you, me, myself, my family, my money, what I get, what I eat, what I wear. I think I just feel like there has to be more to life, right? Life has to go
Absolutely.
beyond. It has to go beyond you. Your life has to have a way of impacting and touching other people, so that we're all trying to leave our footprints in the sands of time. When you are not here, what would you be remembered for? Would you just be remembered as the person who went to work and worked for 20 years and retired, or worked for, and that's it? Should that be it? Should that be your legacy? So it's about legacy building at the end of the day. And just as you said, we are human beings. And the moment we find our purpose, we find our point of service, you find how you connect to other human beings and how you make their life better. It will not only help you emotionally, and you just find a lot of joy doing it, but in so doing, you would also be blessed financially, because that is what would even give you the highest wealth, in my own opinion. Just finding that your place of service, that your place of working, somehow you are there. It comes into it that it begins to also pay you. So it's not that you are just doing the work that they will say your reward is in heaven. You would also begin to reap that reward on earth, both physically, financially, just having a robust network. Sometimes I feel like the biggest gift I have are the people in my life, that there is hardly any problem I think about now that I cannot think about someone who would know something about it. I think that is the biggest gift in my life. That at whatever situation, whatever comes up in my mind, and something, whatever challenge I'm facing, I don't know the answer, right? Good and fine, I don't know the answer. But I know somebody. I know someone who has an idea. Somehow there is somebody I've connected to that I can comfortably and happily reach out to, and they will give me their audience. They will be happy to jump on a call with me. They will be happy to go out of their way to help me. So I feel that is, for me, that's the biggest blessing. And it doesn't just come like that, right?
You
People
build
can
it.
spot. You build it. That's the thing. That's something I always try to transfer to my mentees. I tell them, I say, a mentoring relationship is not a one-sided relationship. If you are a kind of person that always wants to receive, people will sense it. Anybody can easily sense a user. If you're the kind of person that whenever it comes to when you need to contribute to the life of other people, you have an excuse. When somebody needs you to come and do something for them, there's always an excuse. It's like, now you invited me to come to your podcast, and it's like, oh no, I cannot find the time to do it. And you're that kind of person is always no, 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 no. One day you too want something too, right? You are at that point when you are needing something, and it's not magic. It's always a give and take. It's the natural laws of how life operates. So the givers, that's why I always tell you, I say givers never lack. It's very funny, but the more you give, the more you receive. There's no way around it. There's really no way around that kind of thing. So it's important for you to build that vast, robust network of people around you. And so it just serves you in all ways. That's just what I would say. It serves you all round. The money you are looking for, you will get it. The peace, the financial happiness that you want, you will find it. But the joy that comes with it, that just having that human touch and that human community, that cannot even be bought. You cannot even put a price on that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That is the people's capital. It's more important than the cash, no?
You can't put a price on it. You truly cannot, yeah. That you
Oh,
just have people in the right places, that something crops up, there's somebody you can think of that you can call and they will answer your call. It's not it's not calling that is a problem. You call them and they answer and they go out of their way to want to, get you out of that situation. I think that's something every human being should try to aspire to and continue to build and nurture, because you nurture relationships, right? And it's
absolutely.
it's never a one-sided thing. Yeah. So you just keep nurturing it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Now, coming back to agriculture, what would you
Mhm,
say is the biggest challenge that you see? Because, of course, you are analyzing the situation, you are seeing the
mhm,
problem, but you also providing solution. So, what kind
mhm.
of challenges do you see in terms of Africa and Nigeria, maybe in a particular case? Of course, we are from Nigeria. That is important for us in a particular way.
Like the problems are many. Like the problems are many, but I'm just going to, if I have to tell you the biggest challenge, in my opinion, the biggest challenge of agriculture in Africa, specifically in Nigeria now, Africa, Nigeria, I'll say the biggest challenge is the insensitivity of the government. I think that's, for me, I think is like the center hub of that challenge, that the government just somehow, is it that they pretend or they don't care? I don't know the word to use. So I think that is where the challenge is. And then that now stems with no technology, very limited access to technology to do what you want to do. So you want to do what you want to do, but you cannot do it because those technologies are beyond you. I remember when I was doing my master's project, I had to send my samples to other countries. I sent my samples to South Africa, to the UK. I had to pay out of pocket, which is wrong. But because I was determined and I wanted to do that, I spent close to like 500K then, as someone who was earning what was my salary, for me to spend out of that money out of pocket. Not everybody will have the willingness or the capacity to do that. So even when you want to do good work, even when you have the willingness, eventually people will get tired, people will get frustrated. So I would say the government there needs to be, something has to give on that end. And then the people too, the people mindset too, because sometimes people know what they should do, but they've reached the point where they don't want to do it. So even the small thing that you can do, people will not do it. So it's that thing. So I would always say it's a people problem for me. It's not the people. Like, solve the problem of the people and then you solve the problem of agriculture. That's really what I think. So, and it's on both fronts. It's both the government and then the people who should train, people who should educate. There has to be like integrating of agricultural education from a young age. When you grew up in Nigeria, did you care about agriculture at any point? Think about it. If the point where you were going to school and you were going to school from your primary school to secondary school, was there any point that somebody made agriculture glamorous to you, shared that prospect, and made you feel like this is something you should aspire to? So there is really hardly people aspiring to what are they calling it? People don't aspire to agriculture, as in fact people just stumble into agriculture, kind of. It becomes like, oh, I don't have a choice kind of a situation, which does not always end well. So I feel that is something, it's more of a people problem. So we need to get the people thinking right, get the people to the point where they are thinking about it holistically, and then from there you would get solutions to the problem. That's really what I think.
All right. What about the youth? You said, like
Mhm.
you pointed out, which is correct, that a
Mhm.
huge proportion of our population is young people. In fact,
Right.
not only Nigeria, but the whole of Africa,
Mhm.
which actually put Africa at a pedestal. If our leader
Mhm.
were to really lead instead of just play the small boys for the European metropoles. All right.
Mhm.
Having said that, how do you see the role of young people, or how should we get them more involved in agriculture? Because this is their world after all, because they're going to be the one to live here.
The leaders of tomorrow, right? Yeah, I think that's a very important question. I think my last article particularly was even the topic. The last article I put out is how we can drive agricultural innovation through youth empowerment programs. There are so many things that comes to my mind, but I think the first, chief among them, is training. That's the first. The first key thing is like there has to be that thing where people are exposed to the prospects of agriculture, even as young children. Even as young children who are 5 years old, 6 years old, let them see the practical aspect and let them see themselves doing it. And in order to do that, there has to be like technologies that rally around agriculture. In this generation, young people have the time. Most of us, let me not exclude myself, most of us have all the free time we have. We are looking at our phones, we are looking at our laptop, we are looking at our computer. There is something we are doing online one way or another. So there has to be a way to integrate some of those technologies, such that, for example, you have apps that track weather conditions. You have apps that can tell people about market trends. So young people have to be able to see themselves doing these things, right? There has to be a way that you have to make it attractive. That's number one. You have to be able to paint a picture that somebody now grows up and aspires to go to agriculture, not by chance. It's like, oh wow, there's prospects in this. And truly there's a lot of prospects in agriculture. Agriculture is the future. There's a lot of money in it. So if somebody who is even driven by money, if done right, there's a lot of money in it, there's a lot of prospects. So we need to be able to paint this picture to young people as they grow, so that they willingly, you cannot force anybody to get involved in what they don't want to be involved in. So it's just like the old saying of you can drag a horse to the river, right? No matter how you want to talk about agriculture, if me as a young person looks at this and I feel like there's no future in it for me, they'll rather probably go and be an engineer or be a doctor, be something else that they feel has better prospects. Because somehow everybody is selfish in our own way, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always that element of self-preservation. So agriculture has to be to the point where the youth sees that they can benefit from it. It's very important that young people, and then you make it easy for them. So how do you make it easy for them? There has to be loans and credits that is tailored to youth empowerment. There has to be programs like you have to come up with like mentoring programs where older farmers, because you cannot discard the place of experience. You cannot discard the place of experience, no matter the education you have. The experience of someone who has been working the land. The farmers, they are really the backbone of the society. They're like the salt of the earth. You cannot discard the experience they have with a young person who has just gone to school to study plant science as a course or study agriculture as a course. A farmer who has been working the field for 20 years, there are some things that he will teach you that you will never learn on your own. Like there's no way you could have learned it through your education. So we have to be able to come up with mentoring programs that would pair a young person who is coming with that technology with a farmer who is experienced, and they begin to learn together to see how they can marry the two. So that is another very central way of getting the young people involved in agriculture. Catch them young, make sure they have the resources available to them. Well, if there is no resources, then there is no interest. If they have the resources available to them, set up mentoring programs. Let the young people know that let there be free flow of market flow. So you can even set up tech hubs. The way people do like hubs of different things, like the hub of this, there can be hub of young agricultural association, like the one you were describing in Uganda. So that's a very good initiative. I think I wrote about something similar to that, and when you mentioned it, I just smiled. That's a very good initiative that people need to come together. There is power in numbers, there's power in strength, because when people are together and they are speaking in one voice, they are learning from each other, they are doing conferences, webinars, you are just reinforcing, right? Typically everything we do is to reinforce. So the more people hear about things, the more somehow they begin to aspire towards. It's like, oh wow, one person learns, if we teach 10 other people, 10 people teach 15 other people, and that is really how you spread that message. But me as a young person, you as a young person, any young person, there's always the question of what is in it for me. We cannot help that. So until we're able to answer that question of what is in agriculture for the youth, and it becomes very clear to them that this is the prospect. Oh, you can become this person. Oh, you can do this. You can make this difference. So it has to be that balance. And then people are now doing it to solve problems while also knowing that they are not wasting their life. Because nobody wants to go through life, as much as we have that philanthropic spirit and we want to give. But you also want to eat now. You want to pay your rent. You want to be able to take care of your family. All of those things are still real issues that everybody has to deal with. So it's very important that balance is really there, so that young people are attracted they are really attracted and they feel like, yes, this is something I should pursue. So the same energy that somebody will use to pursue being a medical doctor or being a pharmacist or being an engineer, the person will use that same energy, knowing that, yes, as much as I'm making a generational impact, I'm also not going to be a castaway. I'm also not going to be a beggar on the streets. It is important as much as possible to mention those things. That is important that people need to find what is in it for them, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Now, for people that want to learn more about you, I want to do business with you. Why not? How can they reach out to you?
Okay, yeah, that's very good. I'm now becoming a LinkedIn person. So LinkedIn is like the only social media where you see me posting every day, and I'm really active. I used to not be a social media person until I started LinkedIn a couple of months ago. So I think my LinkedIn would be like a good way to reach me. So it's my first name and my last name, Amaka Ifeduba. That's my LinkedIn name, and I'm easy to find. Once you search for me, you see a very pink jacket. So I like bright colors. So and LinkedIn is a good place for them to, reach out to me, connect, send a message, or whatever it is. I'm always open to for new collaboration, just meeting new people, and just learning new things generally. I'm always open to that. So I think LinkedIn is great. And then maybe my email too. That's also good. So it's my same last name, amakaifeduba@gmail.com.
Now, what would be your final thought here to conclude the conversation that we have had today?
Wow, we've been talking for this long. I'm just seeing the time on the screen. This is a really long conversation. I did not think we had spoken for this long. Wow, this has been very interesting to just share my thoughts. And I thank you for finding me worthy to invite to your podcast to just come and basically just bear my heart and share my thoughts. I guess my final words would be for anybody out there, whatever it is you're trusting and you are hoping for, just don't trust, just don't believe, just don't wish. Try as much as possible to also figure out the steps that helps you to achieve that dream. Then begin to do. So your passion should just go beyond wishing and desire, but bringing it to doing. As much as possible, do your own part. Live your life with the kind of mindset of waking up every day to do the best you can with what you have. This is what gets you from step A to step B. So if you, no matter the dreams you have, no matter how far removed from you think you have, focus on doing the small things, the little things. It's just the little things. When you focus on the small things, the big things will take care of themselves. Focus on the everyday solutions that gets you to that, but just do as much as possible. Find the discipline. So I tell people motivation is good. I can motivate you all I want, but if you don't have the discipline to actually get up and begin to do that thing, no, nothing is changed. That is how we change the world. It's just by doing, contributing our own quota. Just have that mindset that I want to contribute, I want to serve, but I'll keep learning and I'll keep improving. So those are my final thoughts. And I thank you once again for inviting me. And I've really enjoyed spending my Friday
Thank
morning with you.
thank you so much, Amaka. I appreciate that. It's really been a pleasure
Yeah.
here. And of course, I invite all the viewer to check out Amaka and see what she's doing. You can see that she's a vibrant woman who is making her impact in the world. This is very important. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.